Hello, everybody. My name is Star Raptor, and welcome to the channel. We are just a week away from season 2 of The Mandalorian, and we're going to take a look back at what made season 1 so special. And I'm doing it with my buddies. Once again, we have Milton Weber and we have Ben Maynard. You guys helped me break down the season 2 trailer. We had a hell of a lot of cool things to say about that trailer, and now we're actually going to go back in time and talk about what made season 1 so darn good and why it captured the media world so quickly and so hard. So, guys, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. I'm just enjoying the fall weather and ready to talk some Mandalorian.
I'm
Heck
great,
yeah.
man. Just ready to get this started. I'm ready for the upcoming season.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna talk a little bit about our initial impressions right off the bat. Like, I just want to hear it from Milton first. You finished watching all 8 episodes of The Mandalorian. What were your initial impressions, having watched all 8 episodes?
Honestly, I thought the whole season was really good. I was actually very floored about how they shot it and how it looked. First and foremost, I had I say good expectations when I initially heard about the show, but after seeing the 8 episodes, man, I was looking forward to what they're going to bring to the next season. I'm really excited. That's probably the best way I can put it. It blew my expectations away.
Yeah, because
Oh,
we've seen for the first time live action Star Wars. This is a huge deal. We knew that George Lucas had something to do with an Underworld series for years, and unfortunately, it never got off the ground because at the time there wasn't a Game of Thrones yet. There wasn't anything big on TV. It was basically sitcoms, so it was kind of impossible to wrap even his head around as a billionaire how he's going to do it. So you get something that looks like a movie in every single episode. The amount of work and just how they were able to kind of shoot this thing and blew our minds with, hey, half of it was on a soundstage with a 360 degrees screen.
Yeah, and actually, I just recently watched the first episode of like the directors that were meeting, and they showed a lot of that footage, and I did not know that's how they shot it. It's amazing to see how you feel like you're not like you're in Star Wars with that projection type screen. That's a new way of telling stories, a new way of filming. I mean, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to the next step of how they shoot this show because there's going to be something new that's unexpected that we don't know that's coming.
And yeah, that was really a lot of the great points about the show was just we get these moments where it's just like it blows our mind. It does this, does that. But before we get into all that, I do want to get the feedback from Ben over there. What were your
oh,
first impressions after watching through all those 8 episodes?
oh yeah. I can. Well, first of all, I can echo everything both of you guys said. Also, I think for me, the biggest overarching point, like you mentioned initially, Chris, was just seeing George Lucas's vision come to life. Like, sure, he wasn't directly involved in this project, but as we talked about on our previous episode on here, George Lucas had like a really had a vision for serialized Star Wars,
Mhm.
and he sort of did that with the original Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, and then the animated Clone Wars we all have come to know and love. But he really never got a chance to do that, you know, on the big screen or even on the little screen, really, just because it was just unfeasible then. There wasn't a budget, there wasn't a budget for that. I mean, for now, I believe the budget was like 10 to 15 million per episode for this show, but back then, maybe say 15 years ago in the early 2000s, who knows? It could have been double or triple that for an episode
Right.
of this type of show. So, just seeing like the whole serialized version of Star Wars come to life was one of the um, biggest factors I really took away from the get go. That was I think that was the first thing I tweeted about the show was like it's a great show and everything. I had a great reaction to it, but just seeing serialized Star Wars finally come to life was I think the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because I grew up, not, I wouldn't say I grew up watching serialized TV, but I started
Yeah.
watching things like Breaking Bad and Sopranos, and of course Game of Thrones, where it was like that week to week conversation that you would have with people about, hey, that water cooler moment, like, hey, did you see on Game of Thrones what Daenerys did? Or, oh my gosh, we got like a couple episodes left of Breaking Bad. Like, you have those awesome conversations. And with Star Wars, we never really had a chance to do, okay, you can maybe argue with like the Clone Wars, but nothing like this, because this is like hugely mainstream. Like, it was affecting like the workplace to where like people I didn't even know that were Star Wars fans at my job were like, hey, Chris, what do you think is going to happen? And it was like, this paradigm shift where, holy crap, like, this is not just for hardcore Star Wars fans. There's people out there that are just loving this that aren't even big Star Wars fans. So it really just
Chris,
the
you're
way
so right,
just
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, because you bring up a good point about The Sopranos, because that was what 2005 when The Sopranos came out, The Wire, Breaking Bad was a couple years later. That changed TV because really we never seen anything like that in a TV format. How gritty it was, the storytelling, how real it was. Even like again, like The Wire, that's a show that got to see a different culture of Baltimore. With The Mandalorian, that's something we've never seen. And like, okay, this Western gritty style of Star Wars, we never seen that at the time. And it was like, okay, this is what life would be outside of what the main Empire versus the Rebellion would look like. So seeing that, like again, you say about people that aren't really hardcore fans. My dad is a fan of Star Wars, got me into it, but he's not a hardcore like me. And he's like, man, this is really good. Like, I'm watching every week. And so getting people like that who aren't hardcore fans into a story like this, like if you can do that, you've done your job. Because we're going to get the hardcore sweaties watching every week. I think Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, got to give Kathleen some credit on this too. They have a property on their hands, and I think that's going to be very successful for the next 4 to 5 years. Because I don't foresee this season or this show going more than 5 seasons. Because you don't want to drag it out to where it's watered down at that point. So this is rich storytelling that I think needs to be kept the way it is. Give us a little bit longer episodes here or there, but keep the story tight and keep telling rich stories where we're going to come back every week and say, oh my God, I didn't see that coming, but that was unexpected.
Yeah, so you were talking about, the tight storytelling, and I think that's a great way to keep things from getting stale, because before we started recording, we were talking about shows like Arrow and about how, they would have like 22 episodes in one season, and you're sitting there thinking about, why are they wasting that episode on nothing when it's like something we've seen in season 2 is happening again in season 5. It's like they're spinning their wheels. And Mandalorian, if anything, was like the opposite. People were like crying out loud, be like, give us longer episodes. They're like, when you have the credits on there, it's like 25 minutes for, I think, 1 or 2 of the episodes. But then again, you don't want to water them down either. I think every one of the episodes had something to say in it. Every episode really added to the character of the Mandalorian, because this is a series, so we have to get used to it not as a Star Wars film where we're seeing all this grand action. There's going to be a lot more quieter moments. There's going to be more moments where it's going to be laser focused on what the character's experiencing. And it's not plot driven, but more like a character driven story. I think what it does really well is just that continuous, like, okay, we're exploring this person in this episode, and it still manages to move on to the next episode. Yeah, people might have said, oh yeah, episode 5 really doesn't amount to anything, but I'm looking at season 2 trailers thinking, oh, that's Tatooine. So I think that episode will definitely play in a factor with season 2. What do you have to say about that, Ben?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like there were a lot of little Easter eggs or story points laid throughout season 1, that will definitely tie into season 2. And then also, I feel like on top of that, you have a lot of things from outside of the show that could potentially tie into season 2 as well. Those are some of the things we mentioned in like our predictions in the previous episode on here. But I feel like you both were saying, the stories are kept tight, but even though, you have little one-off stories, one-off, you still have an overarching storyline that, people can still follow along with. Like, the overarching threat of, the child getting taken from the Mandalorian and things like that, that's still looming, because no matter where they go, there's a threat basically.
So, absolutely.
I do want to mention in chat we have the Geek Sack, my buddy Matthew Wilson. He's saying the Mandalorian is top-notch Star Wars, and I have to agree, because not to throw shade at the Rise of Skywalker, but I kind of have to address that because both of these were coming out concurrently,
Right.
and I was let down by the Rise of Skywalker. Not gonna lie, but then the next week we had the Mandalorian season finale, and that instantly like picked up my spirits. I was like, oh, that was kind of a good palate cleanser, you know? It's like all of a sudden, it's like,
Right.
yes, we got this awesome last episode, which makes it a little bit easier to swallow the Rise of Skywalker for me. So I have to agree. I have to agree with Matt there for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I believe also, wasn't the Clone Wars, I think, around the same time of the Rise of Skywalker when it was ending, the last season? Or maybe I'm off about the
It
dates.
came out in February, so it was a couple. It was a couple weeks. It was like 4 or 5
Couple
Yeah.
of weeks
weeks.
after. Okay, so even how the last
Yeah.
4 episodes of Clone Wars, that was tight storytelling, and that was like
Uh-huh.
rich Star Wars. I mean, we probably could all agree those 4 episodes was one of the better movies of Star Wars if it was a movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
like it was
100%.
amazing.
And
So
guess.
again, Lucasfilm in their animation department,
Uh-huh.
I have to say, has been the most consistent since Disney has taken it over. I think it has been consistent over the last probably 10 years because Lucas was a part of that initial journey when they started Clone Wars. And so even now, his influence on The Mandalorian. So I really say I have to give a lot of credit to Favreau and Filoni because those guys have taken what the master, George Lucas, has really started and his influence and made it into these rich stories that we all as fans, whether you're a hardcore sweaty or a normal Randy, like we all love those that storytelling.
And I'm just happy to hear two phrases combined, I guess you can say. Like Dave Filoni in live action. Like people have been wanting that for years because like you said, he's been connected to like every animated series and that's one of the reasons why they all do so well, like you said. And to see him, really being that top-notch creator that's involved with the creation of the Mandalorian, he's there putting in those little threads, right, about the Mandalorians. He did so much with the Mandalorians in the Clone Wars and about how they're a little bit different than they were in Legends, but he's kind of tying them back to how they were at this point. And all that awesome lore because he is the heir apparent, as some people like to say it, of George Lucas. George Lucas imparted all his knowledge to him essentially when he was making the Clone Wars. So we still have sort of like the touch of George Lucas throughout the creation of all this because of him.
Oh, 100%. I mean, John Favreau, John Favreau and Dave Filoni, really. I mean, because Favreau, he's taken a lot of his influences from the original trilogy, George Lucas, and he was involved in the Clone Wars as well. I mean, you have him, like you said, so many people have said, get Filoni on live action. I think he needs to be more involved with live action, just the creative, the story group there at Lucasfilm, like those type of things. I think those are all, really big factors that really have turned this show into what it is and, what it could be like, from what we've heard about this coming season and, potential other projects that are going on over there at Lucasfilm.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to talk about this point because I would have probably almost forgotten had it not been for Matt mentioning it. A huge part of what makes The Mandalorian great in my eyes is the music. And what he just wrote in here in our chat is saying, the only thing I'm not happy about with The Mandalorian is that the soundtrack is broken up into multiple albums per episode, one soundtrack album. I know, I thought that was really strange as well. The positive he is saying is that it is expanding the Star Wars soundtrack library. And I have to agree, like Ludwig Göransson won a freaking Emmy for the music that is done on The Mandalorian. I don't think that's getting enough praise. I mean, we are in a strange year here with everything going on with the pandemic,
Right.
but
Yeah.
still it is worth noting like this is the best soundtrack voted on in the entire television scape was in this show, and it's worth mentioning because like that first moment, that first scene that we see, it's like that whistling and he's in the snow and it's
Yeah.
like he walks into the cantina and you hear that weird noise instrument, a bass recorder or something. I don't even know what it was.
Yep.
People are saying I'm not.
Right.
I used to play drums, but I'm not like a musician or nothing. But anyway, just like the theme song, like that is like ingrained in my brain now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a cool take on Star Wars
Right.
that is not like anything we've ever heard of, but it feels so Star Wars. And I look back at, again, the early episodes of the Clone Wars when Kevin Kiner was doing some really radical stuff for Star Wars as well. Like
His
you
music
had
is
this
tight.
different, like the Clone Wars movie had like pretty much like rock. And then at one point
Yeah.
they had like I guess like an Eastern influence, like an Indian sounding vocalist on top of some of the tracks. So it's not like out of Star Wars for not doing that ever, but I love seeing it in live action and it making it feel so different for such a profound moment in Star Wars. When we have live action TV, let's set it apart from the films by having something completely different. We don't really have the Force theme in this. It's something completely different. We're not dealing with Force characters. We're dealing with the scum and the villainy and all of that. So it makes sense that they would have a completely different style there.
I agree, and it kind of reminds me, and I was just looking at it too, and it just popped in my head. Clint Eastwood's that trilogy of movie, the cowboy movies that he did, like The Fistful of Dollars. That first movie into that like trilogy of movies he did. That particular type of music reminds me of like the type of soundtrack we're getting from The Mandalorian, like that spaghetti western. So it kind of has a lot of comparisons. If fans out there, if you know what I'm talking about, check out the movie A Fistful of Dollars by Clint Eastwood back in the day. Trust me, you'll hear that soundtrack and you'll be like, okay, I can see where the influence came from this particular trilogy of films.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the influences, I mean, for the music, I feel like the music in Star Wars in general, it's just so iconic. Like you said, Chris, like that you can't get the theme track for The Mandalorian out of your head. I mean, I have that as my ringtone actually. And I mean all the other classic soundtracks from Star Wars, this is just, soon as we heard the first introduction of this show, that I feel like that soundtrack was instantly boom vaulted right into like the most iconic Star Wars tracks. And I think I'm really interested to see though, because you can have all the iconic one-off tracks you want, but I'm interested to see if they have develop another iconic track for this season, because like the original trilogy, you go from the classic Star Wars theme to the Imperial March, in Empire Strikes Back. So I'm interested to see how the show progresses in the movies in terms of the music soundtracks, just because they could like rest on their laurels and like just keep the soundtrack the same, but I feel like they're gonna have to adapt, and we'll have to see what they come out with next.
Yeah, so looking at the animation front, I'm not sure if they deviated a whole lot. I mean, we had Star Wars Rebels, which is not fair to judge because they really borrowed a lot from the original trilogy with that series. The Clone Wars, I mean, Kevin Kiner in general, like with the Clone Wars, I don't think he really used a lot of the actual prequel music. I mean, I don't remember hearing a lot of like Duel of the Fifths.
I mean, I know the last 4 episodes with Ahsoka, he did tie in Anakin's dark deeds when she got attacked by the clones, which was a good mix of that music with the original music that he tied in. So there was bits and pieces of original trilogy, prequel, but also his own. Like I kind of prefer those soundtrack of like music compared to even like the new soundtrack we got like the new sequel trilogy, because he did put his own flavor on it and it felt fresh.
Yeah.
We got Joel Davis in a chat. Hey, how's it going, Joel? The Mandalorian I can see being the tip of the iceberg for a lot of the post-Endor pre-TFA storytelling moving forward. Can't wait to see that era expanded, and Geeks Addict also agrees with him. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more to come. I mean, we've heard reports now that there could be spin-offs of The Mandalorian, and I think I might have mentioned this on the Star Wars Underworld podcast. They're awesome. Go check them out. We're going to have a Cara Dune spinoff possibly where she teams up with Bo-Katan. I think that could be really fascinating.
Yeah, I think I read something about that the other day, which would be kind of surprising. I mean, I just want to see more from that character, I guess, before we expend her off. Because not saying that she isn't a good character, because she is, but I think we don't have enough of her story yet to say, hey, let's get in the trenches with Cara Dune and see where she goes from that point.
Well, I paid very close attention because, of course, before recording this, I made sure I binge watched season 1 again. I haven't done a rewatch since it came out, so it was really neat getting to experience like a binge watch within 2 days, seeing all 8 episodes. And that third episode, when she gets introduced, She's got a very murky past that I didn't really pick up on the
Yes.
first time. So she used to be a New Republic shock trooper, or they call it a dropper, which is like a derogatory term. It seemed like when Kuehl was calling her that. Um, but in between her being a shock trooper as well as somebody on the run, she was working for like illicit companies. It seems like she didn't go into it, but it seemed like she had a bounty on her head. She has a bounty on her head some reason from multiple people. So
Right.
different jobs she was doing in between the New Republic and when Mandalorian found her, basically. So I think out of all the characters, she was the first one I thought of because like this is going back months ago. They were like, "Oh, we're looking into doing spin-offs." Like, of course you're gonna do spin-offs with your most watched show on TV.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
You're gonna have to do that. And I think
And
what
you're on a streaming platform where everyone will want to binge it, they'll want to tie in and go back multiple times to watch things that you create that's new that ties into her past. So, I mean, it's yeah, it makes sense. And we all like the character. She's very likable.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I was also talking about this just a couple minutes ago. You know, the Arrow. The thing I really like about the Arrowverse is the Arrowverse. You got all these different shows. You got characters that show up in Arrow and they go over to Legends of Tomorrow and have their own main show. So you could
Yeah.
have potential of like your own little multiverse Star Wars
Well,
thing after Return of the Jedi with like 3 or 4 shows going on concurrently.
well, this is exactly what I was going to bring up. Is borrowing it from Josh from Den of Geek. He's a big YouTuber, and his concept he came up with was a great term. The Filoniverse is what he's been saying. That's what this between 6 and 7 could be the Filoniverse of type shows. If they do spinoffs in this era, you could have this spinoff, this spinoff, this spinoff, and if Dave Filoni's involved, that could be kind of the Filoniverse of shows. And it's like, huh. That's like a interesting concept, and I think they, like you were saying, Milton, there's a lot of potential there for shows because, okay, we go and create this Cara Dune show. Okay, we watch this. Let's rewatch Mandalorian season 1 and 2 to see how it connects with this show. So there's a lot of like rewatchability, I guess you would say.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's another big thing why they're going to be going into a lot of the streaming versus in theaters.
I agree. And let's put it out here too. Let's elephant in the room. Clearly, we have COVID-19 that has affected the movie industry. So
Uh-huh.
I think with Disney Plus now starting to understand, hey, people are at home and they're willing to watch things on the streaming network, and especially with Star Wars. I think there's been enough time away from some of the movies and with everyone going through their hard time with COVID. Something like more streaming shows, especially with Star Wars, where I'm going to watch it. I know people are going to watch these shows. And I think that Disney, it'd be smart on Disney's part, whether it's financially or ratings wise or subscriber wise, to really have a plan of pushing new spin-off things for Star Wars in particular. I know we talked Marvel before the stream, but clearly, and also with Marvel as well, you got to be able to push that product to where you want to keep people invested in your streaming platform, especially with things going on like COVID, because people are going to watch a lot of TV now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there was a report out there that Disney is restructuring their plan. And
Yeah, they're
I
going to
mean,
have
they
to.
have to because their movies are just sitting on the shelf right now. Like
Yeah,
Black Widow keeps getting pushed back. But what is the one common thing that it keeps happening? Well, their streaming shows keep coming out on time because you
yeah,
don't need to put them in a theater. So
right.
now they're gonna have
And
to
people are
shift
going
their
to continue
budget
to
and
pay
make.
for the subscriptions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
even with
Yep.
Milan, I know the Milan numbers weren't huge, and they paid that exclusive. Was it $29.99 or something for
Yeah.
Milan? I
Yep.
think, like Chris just said, Disney's going to now reevaluate to say, okay, let's not make it so expensive because we want to get people to sit down as a family and watch these shows or these movies. So cut it from $29.99 to say $19.99. I'll spend $20 for a movie because you do that when you go to the movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's like
Mm-hmm.
make it normal in price, but you have your family together. It's an extra treat, but families are willing to pay that $20 instead of 30 to 40.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. So we got Keegan Maynard. I guess he might have a relation to you,
Yep.
Ben.
That's my younger cousin. He's in the Air
Nice.
Force. He's in the Air Force.
Oh,
Okay,
great.
Ben. All right. We'll wait to be on the chat. Let's get it.
Yeah, yeah. So he says he's chiming on what we're saying about these rumors and these spin-offs. He's saying he would like to see a Boba Fett spin-off if the rumors happen to be true about him and Mando. I think he's probably going to be in Mando, but talking about him specifically, And I think, again, the Star Wars Underworld, I keep plugging their stuff because they're awesome over there. But they had one discussion on a podcast one week where it was like, do we really need a Boba Fett spinoff? Because it would almost be exactly like The Mandalorian, right? Because you got
Right.
this sort of man with no name going around the galaxy doing the same sort of thing. So, I mean, yeah, give me a Boba Fett spinoff, but I could
Yep.
think of several other characters I'd rather see in a spinoff first just because it seems like it would be a parallel sort of story with what we've already been seeing.
Well, I think that's to a degree, but I'll slightly disagree with you there. I think there's a lot of good potential because, I mean, if you want to pull from the old EU, for example, you could do kind of the storyline of, have Boba Fett, maybe be slowly dying and having to find a clone to help him with his DNA or something like that. Like you could go along that storyline. You can make the story a limited series, just like the Obi-Wan series is going to be. Make it a limited series. So, then it's more of condensed storytelling. So you don't have just a never-ending story. And then, you could use that maybe to potentially spin off into other shows. Like maybe have the villain of the show be, I don't know, Cad Bane. Like,
Yeah,
just have
yeah.
Oh,
just have some progression. Like, sure, okay, we give you this Boba Fett show. This is done. Now we're going into the next show from this character. Basically use the shows as stepping stones to introduce other new shows. And then keep expanding your universe between 6 and 7.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I know we're talking so much about the future here, and I love talking about the
Oh yeah.
future, but I want to kind of go back in the past. And Ben, what was your favorite episode from season 1?
I think by far, a lot of people will say, the finale because there was so much in the finale, etc. But I think my favorite episode, the more I watch, because I binge watched Mandalorian recently as well, I love the second episode with the Jawas,
Mm-hmm.
having to get the egg, all that stuff, because to me, it brought back a lot of what I felt like almost like, say, George Lucas brought into Star Wars, a lot of his ties with Spielberg from Indiana Jones, things like that, because I just think the fact that so like, okay, what was the director's name? Rick Fugimura. He brought back a feel of Indiana Jones to me,
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't really felt since Indiana Jones. And then, you throw it in the Star Wars universe, like the whole scene where, he's climbing up the sandcrawler and
Yeah.
it's driving and everything. That was an instant flashback to The Last Crusade. Like, when he's on the tank and all that stuff, going through that whole sequence. And it was just a fun sequence. And, of course we get to see Baby Yoda use the Force on
That's
on that
huge.
creature. And
Which
then
was tight, by the way.
oh yeah, that
was
was
awesome.
awesome. And
Oh,
then,
man.
you get, I love seeing a lot of people sometimes will dog on like some of the cheesiness in Star Wars, like, Salacious Crumb or the Ewoks or whatever. But I love it. I think the cheesiness is on some of the things is great. And like all the Jawas chanting like Zuga or whatever, like that's hilarious. Like, I think it's great. I think it's great Star Wars. Like, I love a good mixture of, serious and cheesiness. Like, I think it's great. Like, it really is that. That's why that was my favorite episode. It was, a really good self-contained storyline. Yeah, and I think also, yeah, it's just a really good little story, and even though it was just a contained story, it still plays into the big picture because Baby Yoda uses the Force.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic choice. I really do like that episode a lot. The first time I wasn't so sure about it, but like I think I've watched it 3 or 4 times since, and it's the pacing is perfect. It's I think the shortest episode. I might be correct. I don't know, but it really has, like you said, that quintessential Star Wars feel. That
Yep.
man with no name. He's just walking through the desert. He's got the Jawas there. He's got the big creature he's fighting, like it would be something in the arena on Geonosis. Like it just
Right.
screams Star Wars to me. He gets beaten up like crazy in that episode. Like his armor gets so wrecked, but he's so determined. Like that's the first episode that you really learn about Jin Djarin. Like you actually understand. Like he's more than just this guy that is just this, doesn't talk much and just gets bounties. Like there's more to him because that's the first episode that you actually see him like sort of caring for Baby Yoda.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also a big part about the episode, sorry, I had a pop up on my computer. But anyways, a big part I like about that episode is the fact that, okay, episode 1, we get introduced. He's this like badass bounty hunter. He captures that guy at the beginning. All that stuff seems pretty cold, etc. And then he's getting beat up by the Jawas. Like, just seeing that, it really puts it into perspective. Like, whoa, sure, he may be this big badass bounty hunter, but he's not invincible. Like, these Jawas are handling him pretty well.
Yeah.
And then just some of the comedy too, like, when he shoots at the Jawas and they all scatter, like, just it's so good. It's to me, that's like prime time, like Star Wars.
I love the moment in the beginning with the Trandoshans too. That fight, that quick, scrappy fight, like 2-1. Like, you see him struggling a little bit, but then he's using the pulse rifle, which we've never seen before, and it's just this badass weapon that literally disintegrates them in front of your eyes. Like, holy crap! I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, he kicks a lot of ass. Like that, and Ben, I have to concur with everything you said about how badass he was, but also how vulnerable he is as a character. I think for me, one of my favorite episode is probably episode 1. I mean, I know it's probably gonna be easy to say, but just seeing how the universe is established. It's 5 or 7 years after the Return of the Jedi. You feel the grittiness of the Empire trying to hold on. You feel that they're trying to have their last hurrah. It kind of reminds me of, looking at history, the Nazis, when they got defeated and how they ran off, but they tried to rebuild what they had, and clearly the Allied nations were like, the hell with that, you're done. Even this, the New Republic's around, that's why they're scattering and trying to hide out a little bit, but still try to maintain their power. But also, too, seeing how we know nothing about this character was awesome. You get to see that last particular shot of him seeing the child. That's an iconic shot in Star Wars. Like, that's what I love. That's when I knew the show was going to be good. Because seeing him reach for the child, and the child reaches back, it's like, okay, this is something I need to watch next week. It's like we never seen something like that in Star Wars. I mean, we have kid Anakin in episode 1, but we didn't connect with him like we connected with that child like that. And Anakin's Anakin. Hell, he's Darth Vader. Spoiler alert for those who don't know. But like the child is like, man, who the hell is this kid? Like, who is this Yoda-looking type of creature? Maybe we'll get to see what Yoda's past was all about. Or not his past, but where his people come from. So that's where, to me, when I saw that shot, I was like, okay, you got me hooked.
Well, I think exactly. I think the big point you bring up about that, Milton, is it got us all hooked on the show. But I think the bigger, overarching thing as well with that is the overall impact to the Star Wars fan community. Because at the time, like, for what you will, there's division and all kinds of different feelings on Star Wars, and then boom, soon
just say it, it's the Last Jedi. Just say it, then.
So I'm being politically correct. So anyways, so you have all these feelings, mixed feelings on Star Wars, and then you show this child, and it's almost like in real life, you have someone who's angry and you show them a baby puppy and they're like, well, I guess I can't be angry. And then just that overall big reaction, boom, right away on social media. Like we were saying, how, talking about shows week to week to week, boom, that was the topic. And, it never left. Literally, that was the topic. I mean, it still is getting randomly, you'll see it, the child or baby Yoda trending on social media.
Absolutely.
When,
memes, pictures.
Back in the summer when the show wasn't even on. So it's crazy to see the impact of Star Wars.
Dude, I just bought my godson a baby Yoda little teddy bear or whatever just the other day for his birthday. And it's like they're still in Target, they're still in Walmart. Like that thing is part of pop culture now. I don't care what. Just like, I guess, looking at when Twitter came out or when the Tamagotchis came out back in the day. At one point, Tamagotchi was the hottest thing on the planet. Baby Yoda now is in that top 10 of hottest things that people talk about, people love, and they buy the product. I guess I was kind of shocked, speaking of product placement, that they didn't have anything prepared right after we saw that child. I mean, and I guess it's for spoiler purposes, But you imagine the bank they would have made right away of little girl. Just think about little girls and women who watch Star Wars. Like the attachment they'll get to that Baby Yoda. Like it's amazing that they created something that was that universally loved. And I think that's what's appreciated about this show is that the majority of us universally love that character, but also love this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the same show. I think we could all agree if it was just the
Absolutely.
Mandalorian by himself. It would be a great show, but it would not have the reach that it has, for sure. I
Facts.
mean, I'm like going to, the store and they have the Go-Gurt with the Baby Yoda on it now, in preparation
Yeah.
for season 2. There's going to
Like
be cereal, all of it.
so unifying to have that character, and it's like, and what's crazy is we're all grown men who cannot wait to see that character again and what he's going to do. Like it's amazing how that little of a creature can impact us as fans when it comes to storytelling with this particular show. And
Oh yeah.
they did their job. They got men and women and kids hooked into a product, into a show that's so rich in potential. Again, I'm looking forward to season 2. It's probably gonna blow us away.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
so
Now, I was
go
gonna
ahead,
say,
Ben.
Chris, what was your favorite episode? Me and
Oh,
Milton.
Yeah, I'll say we talked.
yeah,
over
I
time.
was just gonna chime in real quick to just all these are the right answers that you guys are saying because you wouldn't have an episode 2, 3, or 4 if the pilot episode wasn't great or wasn't amazing. Just like A New Hope, people like Empire Strikes Back, but there's a lot of people that prefer A New Hope over Empire Strikes
Yeah.
Back because it's what started it all. But yeah, I mean, Dave Filoni directed and wrote that first episode, and you could tell that care was there. Everything was pushed to the limit for what they could do in that episode to make it the quality that it absolutely was. The music, the visuals, the action, everything about it, the costumes, just something you would expect from the movies for sure. This is a hard choice for me. I could say that the last episode, man, I'm probably gonna go with episode 3, because look at that, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Deborah Chow directs this third episode, and it really hit me hard because this is the episode where it's like you see where the show is. You see what the whole premise of the show is. He returns Baby Yoda, and he wants to see what he's actually gonna do with him, the client, and that's where it starts. This entire crazy chase of him trying to get away from these bounty hunters, and we got to talk for a minute about the client and about how cool of a character he is. I mean,
Yeah.
I just love Werner Herzog's
Werner
performance.
Herzog,
I
yep.
think
Herzog,
he's excellent at just like I want to see the baby, and all that kind of thing. And
Right.
he's got such quotable lines. Like everything he says he just says it perfectly. I'm like, oh, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, love that character. I mean, I'll be honest with you, wasn't really familiar with all his work. I know he's from like a Rick and Morty, I think what people know him from and whatnot, but he's a different villain, sub-villain, I would say, because we all know Moff Gideon is the guy, but him as the sub-villain of this particular season was amazing. Just him, he wasn't even in it a lot. That's what made him such a good character, and he impacted us. And he's still alive from my understanding, right? From what I remember. So like, it's gonna be nice to see where we take him. But clearly, we all want to see what's gonna happen with Moff Gideon because he's the guy that's going to be, wrecking shop probably in season 2.
Oh wait, no, I think he's a goner actually.
Did he die? Again, I watched the other day, and like I said, just going back in my head, but
I mean, if the Death Troopers get as much praise as they usually get, I think he's a goner because they just straight up destroyed everybody in that place.
Did they? Okay, and then he's dead then. But like, spoiler alert.
But they didn't. Here's the thing with the movies: if you don't see the person die on screen, then you might come back.
Right.
If you don't see their face, literally their eyes closing, there's always a chance that they come back.
Yeah, listen. Look, but if you don't see him fully dead, then he ain't dead.
But episode 3 really gave us so much more lore because then we get to go into the caverns underneath of the city of Navarro, and you see the Mandalorians and you see what they're up to. Like they've been hiding. There's been a purge apparently. They're at odds with each other. Mando's going in there with the Beskar, and it really leads into some awesome storytelling with these flashbacks of him as a kid, and you're not sure what's going on. You see super battle droids in the background. Then you're getting into these awesome fights in the middle of that compound when he's using every tool in his tool belt. Like I always loved Boba Fett so much because he has so many awesome gadgets like a flamethrower, grappling hook, and Mandalorian has all that gear and he's using it so good. Like he's doing like spin and shooting and he's holding Baby Yoda at the same time, like a complete utter badass. And then he's using the whistling birds and that awesome moment at the end when all the Mandos come in to save him. He's doing that crazy holdout where he's jumping in a speeder, like having a droid pilot this thing and like disintegrating people on the rooftops. It is so awesome. And then you see that thing with Grief Karga at the end and he's shooting them. But then he had the Beskar that was like implanted there from earlier in the episode. The eagle-eyed watchers could have been like, oh yeah, that was there for a reason because he is saved by the Beskar bars. And it was just like every moment in that episode was just so top notch. And I'm so excited to see that Deborah Chow is given the reins for the Obi-Wan miniseries because from episodes 2 and episode 7, she absolutely killed it with what she has done with Star Wars so far.
Absolutely. Again, we all are excited for Obi-Wan. Let's be real. That's the one series we all want. Okay. But no, I think, Chris, I have to agree with everything you said. And even looking back on it, I will have to say another moment that I really enjoyed about this show was the underground stuff with the Mandos. Seeing the culture of Mandalorian about you don't take your helmet off in front of people or humans or whatnot. And then seeing how that played out at the end when he gets hurt and how the droid's like, hey, I'm not a human. Like, I can see you, and that's okay. And he takes off his helmet, which was cool. That was a great tie-in. But even this is another iconic line now. This is the way.
Yeah.
Like, just like May the Force be with you, this is the way. I see that on memes all the time. Like, saying, okay, this is the way of Mandalore or Mandalorian culture. That is a beautiful tie-in and a beautiful way to expand a culture that we knew really nothing about previous to Clone Wars. We got a lot in Clone Wars, but even now on a live action front, it's amazing to see, okay, this is what the helmet's all about. This is how important this metal is. Because that metal, the Beskar, was something that's very like rare to the people now.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get it back from what I remember. So like it's amazing to see what they're really exploring with the Mandalorian culture.
Well, yeah, there was this really chilling line from Werner Herzog's character, the client, where he was saying, to Mandalorian as like a sick burn as he was leaving the place. I forget what episode. It might have been in episode 3. He's like, unfortunately, he says something along the lines of like, unfortunately, there's more of the Beskar armor than your men or something like it was like,
yes.
Man.
Yeah.
And you see an episode.
To me, it made it sound like the Empire, like when they did the War of Mandalore, I guess the Republic at the time, they must have like really ripped all their metal away from that culture, and they're trying to get it back in reward of doing bounties and stuff. That's how I took it. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yep, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm interested to see. I'm curious to see how it's going to play out more, getting that Beskar metal back, because they're going to add more to his armory and to his armor. Like I said, man, I can't say enough good things about what Filoni and Favreau and Deborah Chow and even Dallas Bryce Howard, all the directors are part of this show, telling the story and expanding it more and giving us fresh new Star Wars. Like, I have no complaints about what they're doing with giving us new surprises, new Star Wars moments, new things to talk about. Again, this is the way. A simple sentence where everyone now knows what that means. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so I got to say this fact because it just jumped in my brain now, and I got to say it before I lose it. But I think what makes The Mandalorian so great is it works in a time period that we all know what to expect. You got, the stormtroopers and you got the rebels for the most part. I mean, we're 5 years after Return of the Jedi, but still, it's not like it's 1,000 years ago. It's still in that era that we kind of know of. And people might say, oh, is there too much Star Wars fatigue? A couple of years ago when there was a movie coming out every year. You have this show that comes out. There's absolutely no characters that we've seen in any kind of Star Wars before. and it feels like it's part of Star Wars, but it really isn't part of any Star Wars that we know. And I think that's what it does so well, is for the new audiences that are coming in, is they don't have to know anything about Star Wars. You don't really have to know about the timeline, because you don't have to know about any of the characters. You don't have to know about anything. Literally, you can start there at point zero and get in. Like you said, your father watches it. My mother loved the show, and she's not really huge into Star Wars. So
Yep.
there's so many accounts of people that just aren't big Star Wars fans, but they wanted to see what the hype was about, and they can all get into it because it's that everybody's starting at that same level, which I think is just super valuable for a show. Whether or not that's going to happen with season 2, there might be like 5 rumors or 5 characters that show up, and then I'm going to have to explain to everybody like, oh, that's what that person is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think those are all great moments. For me, I think one of the other more moments, like I guess the saying, would be inside baseball, but one of the more inside baseball type moments I liked a lot was when I think it was the 5th or 6th episode, whichever the Tatooine one was. That one was really good because there was a lot of like callbacks. I liked the reversal in the cantina that droids were running it.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I thought that was a really good little moment. The whole fact the bounty hunter and Mandalorian, they're sitting in the booth where Han and Chewie were. I thought that was, or Han and Greedo. I thought that was excellent. But the big moment out of that one, of course, at the very end, it starts to go dark, and then all of a sudden you hear spurs and boots walking up, and then the camera starts to pan and then cuts.
Yeah.
And we don't know exactly who that is just yet, but I think that's going to be, again, Milton, back to what you said at the beginning of this show, the rewatchability of these series, because now whoever this mystery character is in this episode, people will see him in the 2nd season and be like, oh, whoa, let me go back and rewatch that episode now. And, that'll put context into this. And then basically, you might be able to watch that 5th episode of The Mandalorian and roll it right into whatever episodes connect. It could be almost like mini movies. You could watch,
I agree,
episode from this for season 1 and then roll into like episode 5 and 6 in season 2 or whatever. Like, right. They'll be able to connect like puzzle pieces across multiple seasons.
I have a prediction for that. Okay. I know we're probably going to do this later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it out there right now. Because that episode is called The Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And Dave Filoni directed that episode and he wrote that episode.
Yep.
I think that person is Boba Fett that walked up on her.
Oh yeah.
That walked up on the fallen bounty hunter. I think that was Boba because that was on Tatooine. Yep. He was wearing the spur boots, so we know his arm. He doesn't have his armor right now. No. Someone has.
Yep.
I think that's the Timothy Olyphant character that's going to be playing
Cobb
the guy that stole his armor.
That would be Cobb Vanth. Yep.
I think that's Boba Fett walking up on that bounty hunter.
Yeah, Fennec
because
Shand.
Again, that would seem like a perfect tie-in to say he's a mysterious character. We don't know who this is, but we might know, but we don't know until season 2.
Well,
so,
Milton.
and it's Dave Filoni. He directed that. He wrote that. I have a feeling he'd be the one to say, "Let me scoop in Boba here." They're not going to know until season 2.
I think I echo all of those points, but I think the one I think we even missed last time when we were talking about this is earlier in the episode. I don't even remember the young bounty hunter's name, the rookie bounty hunter.
Turo Calican.
He said, she's no good to me dead about the bounty hunter.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
He said she's no good to me dead. So, and that's Boba's
exactly
line.
What Boba Fett says.
Like, and then you get the spurs. Like, I don't know. I think Boba Fett's inevitable, but like I said, we'll get into those type of predictions later on in this show.
And it's called the Gunslinger. I mean, this episode could have been him. Like, he's the gunslinger, even though he showed up for like 3 seconds.
I'm telling you, Dave. We know is Dave Filoni does this to us all the time. Because like, remember with Ahsoka, whenever we thought she was dead, and the end when he fought Vader at the end of season 2 of Rebels, and he's like, I don't know, blah blah blah. He played games and he planned her potentially being around. Come on, man, like it's Filoni. We know how he works. He's doing this to mess with our heads. I have a weird feeling I'll put half of a paycheck on it. That's Boba Fett. Okay, that's really it.
Dude, so yeah, I
Now,
mean,
now listen, my brother actually is watching right now. He just texted me. He's like, he probably thinks it's Cad Bane.
Oh man.
Yeah,
is your brother Christopher Weber?
yeah, yep, it's
Okay,
my
yeah,
brother.
because I wanted to get to his point too before the chat goes and I can't find it anymore. He's saying episode 6 when the lights go out is one of his favorite moments. The red comes on is definitely one of his favorites. He's saying especially because of Bill Burr and Natalia Tena. Natalie,
Yeah,
yeah, I love that episode. Again, I love every one of these
that's what Matt
episodes.
Lancer, right? Is that when they're going on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ship?
Yep.
and they're like
Matt
Yeah,
nice
Lancer.
yeah,
boots.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that, and what really is awesome about The Mandalorian is that every one of the episodes has its own thematic feel. Um,
Yep.
because there are so many directors, but it's just the way the show is formulated. Is like you have one episode where it's like the Seven Samurai, episode
Mhm.
4, where they're
Yep.
going or making a last stand with the farmers or teaching them how to fight. Another episode, like episode 6, is straight up like a heist, but then it turns almost into a horror movie, like when your brother's saying,
Ooh,
when it turns like the red
yes.
lights, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like Manda's like a serial killer. Like you see the lights flashing, and he's coming up behind Bill Burr, and like every flash, he's closer and closer, and you just you hear him
But
scream.
that's the great thing about this show because you got all those directors who we all know can tell great stories and shoot things differently. That's why
Oh,
this shows the way it is because again, like you just said, different themes and how they shoot them and how they look. You
for
know, that
sure.
season 6 episode does remind me of a horror film, how the lights are shot, how it's very suspenseful. You know what I'm saying? Like this is why this show can't go wrong in my book. You know, I'm hoping we get more of this, and I think we will.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, that episode is like a horror movie. The fourth episode, I feel like some people think the fourth episode was a weaker one, but I really enjoyed it.
I
But
like
that
it.
one, you can tell since Bryce Dallas Howard directed it, it has like a Jurassic Park feel
Oh
to
Yeah.
yeah.
it. The AT-AT in the woods. It just the way it's shot and stuff. It feels
Facts.
like something out of a Jurassic Park movie, but in the Star Wars universe. And I like those different styles. Even more than compared to say having one running director for all 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean
Definitely
they're all
gives that a
different,
ton
but
of
it's all similar, but there's so much difference in the episodes where it doesn't feel like it's out of place.
Yep.
That's what's great. It's not out of place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorite moments of the show is definitely going to be that final episode when we get just Moff Gideon just talking about every one of the characters. Like he knows the history of Din Djarin. He knows the history of Cara Cynthia Dune. He knows the history of Magister Grief Karga. Like all these guys, it's like he is an ISB agent, and I have my own theories about him because I think he could have been a Mandalorian at some point because how else would he know about Din Djarin if he's not one of them? And maybe he turned
Yeah.
into like an ISB officer after and he infiltrated them and destroyed them all. Like I have a
Right.
lot of theories on that, but just this short-lived but very powerful presence of Moff Gideon. He arrives in that awesome, I think they call it officially a TIE Outlander, the way they fold their wings.
Yep.
It's really sweet. And how he controls this legion of people. And he emits this kind of power about him, or he just knows
Right.
everything. And he's so comfortable about what he's about to do. Like the guy's like even kind of honorable in a sense because what other villain that we know actually gives these people a time to come up with a plan? He's like, I'll give you guys until nightfall. Like, how much later is nightfall? Is that like, 10 hours from then? Like, how
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
later is he giving them? And that time, IG-11 comes in and just blasts the place up. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, in comparison, you throw Vader into that situation, Vader just goes in and wipes them all
Yeah.
out. Like,
Yeah, he's
you know,
reckless.
yeah, he's just wrecking shop. And so that is a really good point. Moff Gideon seems more like honorable, which again, like you said, will tie into like some of our theories
Right.
we'll talk about.
Yeah, I mean, and really that he's from the old empire where a lot of those commanders and admirals and generals were very seasoned, older. They were patient because they all were young in the Clone War era.
mhm.
And then you look at the First Order. Hux was like a freaking psychopath who
Yeah.
had no time for anything. So it don't surprise me that Moff Gideon would be that control. Let me take my time, evaluate the whole process. Yeah, they might get away, but they're not getting away. They think they're going to win, but they're not going to win. That's very much Vader and Tarkin,
Yep.
type of style of thinking.
Yeah, so there were a lot of deep cuts in this series. I mean, you could tell it was made by Dave Filoni. Even Jon Favreau was thrown in. There's some bits and pieces there. Do you guys have any particular little bits of canon, little nuggets that you would like to talk about here?
I
And I'm gonna let you do this one because I feel like you have something from what I'm looking at your face.
I think, well, I have a couple points, but the first one I think for sure is we talked about it in the last podcast, but the Mandalorian's rifle for one, that's from the holiday special. Like,
Yeah.
all the connections there to the holiday special are great. Like, and I love that they actually acknowledge it. Like,
Mhm.
whoever the guy is at the beginning, he was going to Life Day, like all that, all of the different, little connections to the holiday special. I like that they're embracing it. I mean, even now, they're coming out with the Lego holiday special. Like, they're actually embracing, again, like I said, some of the cheesiness of Star Wars. Like, it's great. Um, I think that's a really good connection. But the connection that really, really hit home for me was when the Mandalorian, when Din Djarin was talking to the armorer, and she's telling him about the child and stuff, and she's talking about enemy sorcerers, and
Huh.
and he's like, why would you return this creature to enemy sorcerers, and blah blah blah. Like, that whole connection, like, I don't know, it just gave me chills because it really brought back the whole like prequel era, like Jedi Sith,
Mhm.
like that feel.
Mhm.
And I think it's such a good deep cut. I mean, that is, and then of course we already discussed the Boba Fett stuff in the 5th episode. That's all, like, I think a deep cut because some people might have seen that and thought, oh, that's Moff Gideon,
Oh, a lot of
but
people thought that. Yep.
but there's a potential for that. I think that's, you know, I think those are probably my two most favorite moments, I would say, or favorite type of deep cuts. And then, yeah, I would say those are my probably two biggest ones for now. And then, yeah, how about you, Milton?
Like I mentioned before, the Boba Fett was probably my biggest one, just because again, Dave Filoni, likes to be a trickster.
Mhm.
So, and just knowing how his mind works and what he's shown us with his previous work, Boba Fett for sure, we know it's going to be in this new season. But I think that was a good, nice plant when you look at it with revisionist history. Um, the dark saber,
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man,
yeah,
yeah.
the
yeah.
dark saber. I mean, first of all, again, I did not see that coming
Oh, no one
being in
Hmm.
did.
live action. Because when you see that cut, I'm like, what's he
Ah,
cutting with?
yeah, it's like
And
a
and
dagger?
it
What is
comes
that?
out. I was like, holy shit! Like, we're going back to like the Mandalorian way of culture and like deep lore, how the Jedi stole that weapon or something, and it was like, man, that's amazing to see that. So the dark saber really got me. Oh my goodness, because I really need to get one now. Okay, so like it's just amazing to see that we get to see this in real life action. Because let's be real here, we never probably thought we would see a dark saber in live action.
No.
Like,
Well,
Yeah.
just
well, my thing with that, Milton, is I think I never expected that at all, just because I feel like for the longest time, up until some of the little sprinkled things in Rogue One, some of the little cameos like what's his name, Chopper, or like some of those little cameos
yeah,
like that. Up until that point, I felt like Star Wars had almost a hands-off approach. Like, we're gonna keep our live action and our animated
yes,
stuff totally separate. I felt like that was how it was. And then I think the reason why they made the Darksaber be a part of this show, again, like you said, the Mandalorian culture, etc. But I feel like Dave Filoni was such a big part of like pulling it in, being like, no, we need to like connect it, because then again, like the theme of like, what you said, the rewatchability. Now people will be like, oh, the Dark Saber, let me go watch this Clone Wars show
yeah,
Yeah.
and see what all this is about. And then I'd be willing to bet when we get to episodes where the dark saber's used, I bet Star Wars, like officially, like on the Twitter account or whatever, is going to be like, hey, go back and watch these episodes from the Clone Wars, where
yeah,
the dark saber is, and again, rewatchability, boom. Like,
yeah.
so like little connections like that, I think. I don't know. I was just floored when the dark saber came out, because, like you said, when he
Ooh.
started cutting with it, I was like,
Mm.
"What's he cutting with?" And then, boom.
When he
Uh,
came and he stood on top of the TIE fighter, I'm like, yup,
Yeah.
they got my money. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get one eventually.
yep.
Because again, like it shows that to plant that little seed of what we know at Clone Wars, like you said, going back to watch it. Like
Yep.
people who are not hardcore fans are gonna say, "Man, what's this saber all about? That looks kind of cool." And it's only what a 4 episode arc, I believe, in Clone Wars of the saber, and then you'll get to see it used by, and people are gonna realize, wait, Darth Maul used that saber too.
Yeah.
Like like it's cool to see how now it does have history and is now being brought to the forefront of live action Star Wars. And Ben, you made a point about other things of canon or little pieces being put out. I mean, now we have in season 2, Ahsoka coming. We got Bo-Katan from Clone Wars coming.
Yep.
Like it's amazing to see that we're gonna get more of that canon into season 2 of The Mandalorian. Because again, people who don't know Ahsoka, which they should at this point, or don't know Bo-Katan, which would be a lesser character, can now go back and watch Clone Wars and say, okay, what is this person all about? How are they tied into the Star Wars lore? And then they're going to see, oh, they knew Anakin, they knew Obi-Wan, they knew all those guys way back in the day. So,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's just master storytelling all around. I mean,
it's great tie-ins. Like, and they're not going to beat our heads with them. They'll drop a couple lines for normal fans who don't know, and they're going to say, "Oh, wait, what is it all about?" And then your friends can say, "Oh, go watch these episodes. Go see this. Go see that."
Yep.
A couple that I'm going to talk about here are some pretty good deep cuts here. We got in that one scene in episode 3. There's the Paz Vizsla versus the Mandalorian in that little quick scuffle. They pull out vibro blades, like little vibro daggers. And I was like, oh man, they look cool. Like they shine real quick and they make that like distinctive sound when they're like scratching across the armor. So I thought that was really cool. Another Mandalorian one is in the flashback in the last episode, actually. You look closely on the rescuing Mandalorians, and they're actually part of Death Watch from the Clone Wars. They got the same emblem on the shoulder.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right, Chris.
It really draws in the characters closely. And I'm sitting there thinking, what if, and I haven't heard this theory from anybody, what if the person that was rescuing the Mandalorian was none other than Moff Gideon himself?
That would be,
and that's
that
why,
would be
like,
crazy.
Because the Mandalorian knows who Moff Gideon is. Like, it seems to me that last episode, I watched it the other day, it was like, it's almost like he kind of has a grudge because they all think he's dead for some reason. They all think, oh, he got tried for his war crimes. He's dead. Like, how is he out now? Like, what? I gotta know more of the story.
Right. Nope, you're right. I didn't think about Death Watch. That's a good one too. And even I'm starting to buy into your Moff Gideon, like rescuing him or at least infiltrating the Mandalorians for some particular Imperial reason. So I'm starting to buy into that, Chris. So you might have me sold on that.
Yeah, so there was plenty of side characters in this series, like one-off little characters in each episode. There usually was like 1 or 2. Do you guys have any particulars that stand out as some of your favorite performances or favorite characters in these episodes?
Oh, go ahead, Milton.
I'll go quick.
You're good.
He was short-lived, but I actually kind of like the Matt Lanter character in episode 6. Like, and we all know Matt Lanter as Anakin. That's awesome. But to see him play this character, and you kind of felt bad for him because he did wrong place at the wrong time. And I know he's not really an important character in the show, but it's like, damn, like, okay. I wish it would at least kept him alive, like, but it is what it is,
Yeah, you see the Mandalorian, like, sticking up for the poor guy. Like, no, we don't need to kill him. Like, this was supposed to be inorganics only. There's no living person that's supposed to be on this ship. And, of course, Shii, or whatever her name is, just straight up throws a dagger at the poor guy.
That was a character. I was like, okay, like, you know what? Wish he would have been around longer. But, I mean, I know he had no importance to the overall main story. But it's like, you know what? Kind of like that character. I felt bad for him.
I mean, what stood out to me was a real nitpicky thing was, he's like basically the troopers that we first see in Star Wars. Like the New Republic hasn't really changed. Like they still got the same helmets and the same looking type of uniform for the most part. So it's like, okay.
Yep. Right. Agreed.
I'll say mine is Toro Calican from episode 5. I know he's not a loved character by many at all.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the guy. It was just like you could just tell like the Mandalorian's just like this kid is full of crap. Like I don't even know why I'm here with this kid right now. Like, I got nothing else better to do. This guy has a job. I gotta do it. And like you gotta give up for the guy. Like he actually is trying to make something out of himself. He actually kills Fennec Shand, which is
Yeah.
supposedly one of the best mercenaries around, and he just
Yep.
out of cold blood kills her after getting the information. So the guy's trying to make a name for himself, but he's not damn smart enough to do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
True.
He definitely I feel like he is the least talked about character of the entire show. I think. But yeah, he's a good I mean his arc was good. I liked how he was kind of cocky, he was a rookie. I mean, it was cool just I mean, I guess that's what happens to you when you're a rookie bounty hunter and you're cocky in the Star Wars universe, you get taken out pretty quickly. But I mean, his arc was a good little arc, and then of course, like we said, we liked a lot of the tie-ins with that episode. Now, for me, I don't know. I would say my favorite side character. Well, you got the Jawas chanting Zuga. That's hilarious. But I really like, and actually, Chris, to really deep cut from the old EU, the whole like Tag and Bink storylines. I feel like the two stormtroopers were kind of like the Tag and Bink from,
Yeah.
in these in this universe anyways. It was a good little comedy back and forth at the beginning of the final episode. And I just thought those two characters, it was such a good little comedy back and forth, kind of almost representative of those two characters in the old EU. And I thought those were really good side characters. I just think, yeah. And then obviously, I mean, I'm not sure if you classify him as a side character, but Queel, I think Queel, that's how you say his name. But him getting taken out in the final episode, that was sad. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I liked him. Yeah, and I thought Nick Nolte did a really good job at voicing that character.
Yep.
I mean, again, because we all can recognize his voice as Nick Nolte, the actor, but we got to see a character that at first wouldn't say he was likable,
Yep.
but he was necessary for how he was to the Mandalorian. He kind of like made him work or push himself in a weird way. And he kind of like put him in his place at times.
Yep.
But then it's like, so you fell in love with the character. It's like, okay, I like him. Because really what were Ugnaughts to us? They kind of were just like pesky, little creatures.
Yeah.
Ugnaught was like, a farmer, badass, who just wanted to have his own little space and be left alone.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Well, with him, actually, Milton, when you were bringing up iconic points earlier, so in my opinion, these are your three iconic things from this season: Baby Yoda, This Is the Way, and then I Have Spoken.
Yep.
Because I've spoken's another. I think those are your three big takeaways from the season that are going to stand the test of time. Because I've spoken's another. I mean, I see that on anything from sports to political to other movies to food all kinds of things.
I'm surprised in the debates none of the candidates used I Am Spoken yet.
yeah like but for real,
or
like,
This Is the Way.
Those are I think those are the big three takeaways or three iconic points. Like, sure, obviously there's more in-depth takeaways or in detailed things story point wise, but for just the overall general population or general viewers, I feel like those are three big things that people really took away from this season.
Yes, agreed. Ben, you know what? You're absolutely right. There's nothing else I can really say about that.
Yeah, Quill is a character that they did a lot of work with. They built him up so well so that by that seventh episode, man, that really stung. That really hurt. More than anything that I've felt from Star Wars in a while, to be honest with you. Like, this character death that was so profound, and it was so shocking too. The way they do it, like they don't even show him actually getting shot. They just show like a pan from the landscape, like showing Baby Yoda being picked up, and you're like, wait, what? Where's Quill? And then it's like that music playing, and you just see his corpse just lying there.
Well, and then you
It's
hear
like,
Din
what?
Djarin going, Quill,
Yeah.
Quill, Quill,
Yep.
like trying to talk to him, and no response, and then it cuts.
And what's crazy is like we know how they shot that. This is so that he sacrificed his life to save the child. Like that made him even more likable. You know
Yep.
how he gave himself up, knowing the importance of protecting his child. Which that's why I think you're right, Chris. They wrote that character well from beginning to end. Where at first we weren't sure about him. Do we like him? Then it's like, okay, we do like him. He's kind of an ass at times, but then that's important. And then they progressively say, you know what though, he's needed. It'd have been interesting to see if he would have lived, what he would have been like in season 2. But at the same time, I think his death was necessary. You know.
Yeah, I think it was really what built him up even more was the fact that he rebuilt IG-11 with
Mm-hmm.
all that care that he took to repurpose this droid, which that droid also got sacrificed. There's a high body count in this show, more than any other Star Wars piece of anything we've had recently, really. They do
Right.
not hold any bars. It's almost like Game of Thrones in a way. Like,
Oh,
I don't know if everybody's gonna, everybody's gonna come out safe in season 2. If already 2 characters have gotten picked off, what's to say Grief Karga or Cara Dune could be picked off next season?
oh yeah, I think that's a point we forgot to mention earlier as one of the big moments of the show. I really think, you know, just big shout out to Pedro Pascal on his voice acting. His voice acting for when he's talking to IG-11, when IG-11's going to sacrifice himself, like that was spot on, because you really felt the emotions of like him not wanting, him going from hating droids to like actually loving IG-11, not wanting him to sacrifice himself. Like that is great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because then he said at one point he's like, don't do destructive mode or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, he told him not to do it. And like, but again, that character had to go. It was necessary to lose those characters. You to see more of the progression of the character of the Mandalorian, but also as a story. And like I said, Chris, I think in season 2, clearly, I think we can all predict that the Mandalorian is going to live in season 2. But it probably wouldn't shock me if another main character would lose their life or sacrifice himself in order to save the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's necessary because that's how you have stakes in fiction. You gotta do something with characters if they're no more used to you. You gotta kill them off because that will show like, okay, this is serious. This is not fun and games. As much as I love Star Wars Resistance, that's aimed for, the younger audience, and they can't do that. But with a show that's on Disney Plus, remember guys, this was originally that show before anybody knew that Baby Yoda was the thing. This was that dark, gritty Star Wars that we haven't gotten yet. This is that Star Wars, the hardcore people that love things like Shadows of the Empire and 1313 and all these crazy comics that came out in the early 2000s. This was their show. Everybody was super pumped, and it still is that, but it also has an element that people love as well. And jumping right off of that, let's just get right into what was our favorite Baby Yoda moment in this show.
I think for me, 2 points or 2 parts, I guess. The finger whenever he points at the Mando, which is awesome, because again that got us like, okay, that hooked us. And then when he used the Force for the first time, because I was like, damn, like he was powerful, and he's like what 50 years old, but he's a child.
Yep.
Like it's so weird. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, what? But then if he's that powerful as a 50-year-old kid, like what's he like when he's 200 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What about you, Ben?
I would say my favorite Baby Yoda moments would be, I thought the Force choke on Cara Dune was great. I thought that was a pretty I thought that was a pretty good moment because it was showing Baby Yoda as a kid. Like, sure, he's a baby and everything, but he's being protective of his parent. Like,
yeah,
So I thought that was a great moment. And also another moment involving Cara Dune when Cara and Din Djarin are kind of like scrapping around back and forth. And when they're just the cinematography on it, when they're laying there on the ground and then Baby Yoda like walks up and he's like in the middle of them, like it's such a good shot.
yeah.
He's just standing there and she just looks over at him and it's such a good shot. That one, and then Yeah, I don't. There's just so many with him.
For me, I really love the one where he's in the cockpit in episode 3 and he's like hitting one of the buttons to like turn the radio
Yeah,
on, or it's not the radio, but people make the memes about it with the radio. But
Yep.
it's just so
right.
great because it shows you like how playful of a character he is and how intelligent he is. He's not just like a baby that's just sitting there. Like he actually can move. He can actually think for himself. Like he gets into mischief. Like he's and throughout the rest of the season, he gets into mischief. When Mandalorian wants to go out somewhere, he says stay put, and next thing you know, a second later, he's right there on his feet, ready to go. Like he's always trying to do something. He's very active.
Right, I agree. I think another moment for me, even think about that, Chris. I think it might have been that same episode, maybe episode 2 or 3, at the end when he's trying to push the buttons or something, and then doesn't he give him like the little ball at the end at one point
Yeah,
to play
Yep.
with? I think that's where I think for me personally, that's where Mando connected with the child most. He's like, you know what? This
yeah.
is what you do. Take it. You did good. Here you go. Like I was like, okay, now they're going to be an unbreakable force or
Mhm.
bond, I guess. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, man. That whole character has moments, and we can name probably 30 of them.
Oh yeah.
They're all great.
Yeah, I could easily make an entire episode for over an hour just talking about every moment because I'll
Yeah.
start
Oh, yeah.
reciting every time we see him on screen. Oh, he did this differently in this
Yeah.
in episode 3 at timestamp 22 minutes he did this, and timestamp 26 minutes he did that.
Well, I like like you said, Milton, with him like getting the ball and everything. I love in the 4th episode, when you have him with all those kids. I like that you still show the child's aspect of Star Wars. Like
Yes.
he's playing with all the kids. They all think he's like this weird little creature. He's eating frogs or
Oh, yeah.
whatever, and they're all like, ooh, ooh, like that kind of almost humanizes him because he's
Yes.
playing with all those kids.
No, I agree, and like I said, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's the brilliance of this show, to where you're able to tie in not just adults but little kids that are going to say, "Oh wait, I would love to have a real Baby Yoda in real life." Because let's be honest here, if we all had little Baby Yodas running around, we would not want to let them, we'd play with them all day. We want to hang out with them, just
Oh
seeing
yeah,
how they develop the character,
for
and what
sure.
the character can do. So I mean, even in the trailer, the new trailer, how whenever he pulled out he was about to kill those guys in a little fight club, and Baby Yoda saw him ready to pull out the flying little birds or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and he shut his helmet or he shut his basket. It's like, okay, that was cute. Like they've been doing this for a while, so he knows what's coming. So
Yeah, I do want to take some time to go over the chat real quick. So we have Growler Gang. I really like to see adults who know so much about Star Wars. Hey, really appreciate it, man. We're just
thanks, man.
we're just buddies that have not actually met in person, but apparently we can hold a pretty good conversation when it comes to Star Wars. So that's always cool. Joel
yeah.
Davis, he's saying it's funny for a show that was advertised as dark and gritty is still pretty lighthearted and fun. Yeah, and he's also saying it in very goofy but in a fun way. Yeah, definitely, man. And is that your cousin or your brother, Christopher?
My brother.
Your brother, yeah. Force choking Cara Dune, yeah. Everybody can agree. That was awesome because, like, is that foreshadowing? Like, can he possibly maybe turn to the dark side, or like,
Well,
what's
what
gonna
if-
go on?
What if he accidentally hurts Din Djarin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
let's be real here. He may potentially, he could grow throughout this season or this series to where, let's say, I'll use Groot for example. Groot's going to become an adult tree again, but like with Baby Yoda, he's going to eventually grow in his power, grow in his size. I'm not saying he's going to be 6 foot tall or nothing like that, but what I mean is, like, during that transformation of growth and his power getting more and more extended, maybe he may unintentionally hurt the Mando or hurt a friend, or when he's trying to save Mando at one point, his power gets out of hand. Kind of like Jean Grey from X-Men. How she gets, as she gets more enraged or she's trying to like do a good thing, she loses control of herself. Maybe that happens to the child, because at one point when he first used the Force, he passed out and went to sleep. So maybe the more powerful he gets, the more damaging it could have on him. So.
And speaking about the future speculated, I do want to spend a little bit of time. First thing I want to talk about, though, this is a little bit of controversy. I think a lot of the fans could agree. They were promoting this special look for Monday Night Football. And I thought it was going to be this awesome. A lot of other people thought it was going to be like an awesome, like official second trailer. Like it's going to be 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes. And yeah, part of it is due to the fans having overhyped expectations. Yeah, but I think part of it could be blamed on Disney and Lucasfilm for putting out something that was half recycled content from the first trailer and just marketing it as this epic thing that's going to be on Monday Night Football halftime show. Like, we didn't get any kind of buzz about the first trailer. Like, they just randomly dropped it at 9 o'clock in the morning one day. And it was like, okay, but this thing, it's like, oh yeah. And you know, at least give us a zinger. And there has been no zinger for the trailers. The zinger has like no big things where it's like, oh my God, you know, the Jedi must end, or you see Kylo and Rey, like, you know, with their hands, like they're gonna join. Like, there's nothing big in the Mandalorian trailer right now that's gonna really get people.
Or you don't have that Han moment of like, home. You know, like I think you're right, because I watched it the day after the game, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, Milton, don't be that fan, don't be that person. But then it's like, you know what? They've done a good job at promoting their trailers. And I said, me and my brother actually talked about this before. The sequel trilogy trailers are by far dope. Like, they're probably better than the movies. You know, but they did a good job at marketing those trailers at certain times throughout the year. And every time we got the second or major trailer of the Star Wars trilogy, it was hyped up weeks and weeks and weeks onto it. And we all, non-football fans, were watching a football game just to watch the trailers. Like, that tells you something. Yeah. You know, and to me, I didn't get none of that this time with the man, because this is a show that we all want to see. So I'm surprised that Disney say, let's hype this trailer up because we know season 1 was so successful. Let's put it like we're trying to promote a movie. You know, come on.
Yeah,
they
and I think that's
crap the bed on this one.
Yeah,
it was just recycled information.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on this trailer. I like it, but I don't like it, because I think it's a solid trailer for general audience members. I think it's solid, you know, it's fine. But then, like, for like the more, then again, I guess hardcore Star Wars fans, they'll watch it if there was no trailer. So so my thing with it though, I really like, I was messaging Chris when it first came out. My initial thought, since we've had all of these things, like say Boba Fett, the Hollywood Reporter was the one that reported it, and you know, they're usually accurate on all their stories.
Oh yeah.
So you know, they reported Boba Fett, so maybe like Chris and I were talking about, you know, the trailer would build, boom, show Boba Fett at the end of it, and then, you know, that could be a huge explosion. Think about the social media explosion that would have been. Whoa, Boba Fett, Mandalorian, blah 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 blah. You know, and then that could have been a good like a crossover moment for hardcore fans, because you know, we haven't. You know, I guess now that I'm talking it out loud, I guess then again you could also have the other side of the coin, where do you want to potentially confuse people and be like, wait, I thought he died in the last movie, episode 6. You know, I thought he died 40 years ago. When that was out, you know, like some people, like some like general audience people reactions to like Solo, when Darth Maul, they were like, wait a second, I thought Darth Maul got cut in half by Qui-Gon. So I think now that I'm talking it out, I guess you could have had a potential moment like that where people are like, wait a second, hold on. What are we doing here? What timeline is this? I thought this was between 6 and 7. Now we have Boba Fett in it. What's going on? Like, I think there's a potential for that. But again, setting all that aside, I really thought they would have had some type of big build-up moment, or even forget Boba Fett or any of these, you know, talked about character or reported characters from the Hollywood Reporter. Why didn't they just, you know, you could have just did a big build-up moment to something really cute with Baby Yoda, you know, and then
there's nothing big even with him in this.
Yeah. So that's I guess my takeaway from that trailer is I think it's solid, but I don't know. I think it's good enough. You know, it's just one of those things like when you were in school, you know, do I really want to work hard and get an A, or I could just do decent and get a B? And I think they just, you know, did decent and got a B on it.
That's a great example.
Yep.
So here's the thing that bothers me is they don't even show Moff Gideon in either of the trailers. Like this is a character we've seen already, and he's
Yep.
obviously like every time that Giancarlo Esposito talks in interviews, he's like giving so much passionate information. Like he is our one source that has given us so much information about season 2 of The Mandalorian more than anything we've seen before. He's like talking about, oh, there's gonna be connections like Clone Wars. Like this guy is like dropping stuff like that. Like, oh man, Giancarlo knows about the Clone Wars. Like this is awesome. This guy from Breaking Bad is A-list actor is talking like super nerdy stuff right now. But
Yeah.
even if you don't want to show Boba Fett, just show him with the darksaber like going against somebody,
Yeah.
like Mando or something. Like we pretty much
Well,
know that's gonna probably happen. I mean, Mando is the mortal enemy of Moff Gideon. Just show them clashing sabers together or whatever the heck Mandalorian would use against him, and there you go. They're not spooling any new characters, but you are gonna see something that we all expect to happen anyway. But I think it comes down to two things or one thing. You got TV promotion, you got movie promotion. Movie promotion, they have to sell you a ticket to get into the theater to start
Right.
watching a movie, and it's a one-time thing, and you're done. Whereas with the TV shows, I think it's like they don't want to spoil anything because they want the word of mouth for like episode 3 comes out. Then that means everybody's going to watch episode 4 because everybody on the internet is talking about so and so showing up in episode 3. So that's going to get more people to generate to like subscribe to Disney Plus. So they have some crazy marketing scheme that I have no idea about, but apparently I guess it's going to work because it really worked for season 1. They didn't show anything huge, but then again, it was something we've never seen before with Star Wars TV.
Right.
So we were eating it up, whatever they were showing us, because we hadn't seen anything before.
definitely. I think actually that's a point you bring up right there, Chris, about TV promotion versus movie promotion. If you think about it, for like The Mandalorian, okay, it had its big impact, etc. Hardcore fans, general audience members, etc. I feel like general audience or hardcore, they'll still, the people that watch season 1, they'll be there. I feel like as well, when you get a hit TV show going, it's almost like any movie that gets released now. A movie gets released. If you're not going to watch it in the first 2-3 weeks of it being out, you're probably not going to watch it. So I feel like a lot of the people that I feel like with the marketing, do they really have to give away a lot just because you have your audience, you have the people that'll watch it, they'll watch it regardless. Like the general audience, the people that liked it, they're going to tune in. The hardcore fans, they're going to tune in. How many, to me, I guess the question really would be is how many more fans could you really get by doing a big moment like that? Could you double the audience? Maybe. Or could you just barely bump up the audience and give away a big spoiler? So like I feel like it's a risk reward thing. I mean, it could have been a risk worth taking, but it could have potentially just been like whoop and just a little drop in the bucket type moment. That's the only I guess concern I'd have with a big moment in the trailer.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that, Ben. And I think too, we have to trust the men and women that are putting this show together. And I will say I trust what they're doing. Season 1 proved it. Now I think the difference was though they promoted the heck out of season 1.
Yeah.
But they had to because it was a new show. I think they now are trusting us as consumers to say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a great product and you make it better, but we're going to trust that you're going to be okay with our promotion because we don't want to spoil the story and the excitement for you guys. So I get why they would recycle that second trailer with the tidbit of new stuff and don't want to do it over the top. Because again, it is like Chris said, TV versus movie promotion, word of mouth, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like that's where they want us to do the free promotion for them.
Yeah. And just thinking about what they showed us in the trailer, I mean, man, a lot of those things were like the same scenes. And maybe that's all they could show us because maybe like 90% of the season has certain characters that they don't even want us to know about that are going to be out in the show a lot. So maybe they just don't even have a lot of scenes to choose from where it's like, well, guys, we have to keep showing these 5 scenes because every other scene of the show has a major character or something like that. So there's an optimistic way about looking at it from that angle too, I think.
Absolutely.
For
I want to
sure.
read. I want to read about some of these comments that have been coming in with this discussion about the marketing for the Mandalorian season 2. We have Steven Shinder. He's saying, "I don't remember any promotion for this." And he's in the know at Star Wars. He has a delayed replay podcast. He's been around the block with Star Wars. He's in a lot of Facebook groups as well. Joel Davis, he is saying, I've seen a lot of streaming shows whose marketing is honestly greatly limited. And I absolutely agree. Netflix does not really market any of their stuff really. Joel Davis is also saying normally one trailer and that's it. Yep, I agree. And he's also saying also remember streaming services are a long-term investment. It's going to be
Yes.
on there forever or as long as their streaming service exists. Movies kind of live or die in the first week. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That
No,
that
I
does
think
say
we
a lot.
all touched on that. I think that's good points.
Yep.
Like I said, because the promotion is going to come from the fans. Like we're going to do a lot of the legwork because I guarantee you, next week when episode 1 comes out, if it's a killer episode, people are going to tweet about it. People are going to Facebook about it and do some live videos or do what we're doing now. Get on YouTube and doing a live chat about, hey, this episode was fire or this episode was bad.
Yep.
So we're going to be the ones determining how successful the show season 2 is going to be. And from what I anticipate, it should be great. But then we as fans have to then do our part and continue to push the narrative of promoting how great the show is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into our speculation. We're going to move on to the last segment of tonight's show here. I'm going back into the chat. I wanted to make sure I brought this up again. We have a couple comments here about what they are speculating. We have one from Moist Boys. He's saying, I think maybe season 2 will be Mando searching for another Mandalorian, maybe Boba, Sabine, or Bo-Katan. And maybe season 3 will be Mando and that new Mandalorian looking for a Jedi. So yes, that first look, the one noticeable thing that actually piqued my interest was like, oh, he's actually saying he's looking for more Mandalorians because they're going to help him find somebody. So, yes, boys, literally saying everything I was thinking about. Boba Fett, Sabine, or Bo-Katan are your 3 choices there. Boba Fett doesn't really have a huge connection to any Jedi at all, but Sabine and Bo-Katan definitely do. They fought alongside Jedi. So, that is something interesting that I originally thought he was going to be looking for a Jedi specifically, but now he might have to look for like a middleman to then find a Jedi. So what do you guys think about that?
I agree. I mean, I think that was a very telling line in the trailer. Seeing that, again, I think we have a good idea clearly of the Mandalorian culture, what we've seen in Clone Wars and in the show. But for him to have to search out others to find Jedi, he'll need, and with what he said about sorcerers, I think in his mind he's going to need a group of people that can match up with Jedi that are out in hiding, because again, we may get a potential scene where Jedi's versus Mandalorians, in whether it's into season 2 or maybe in season 3.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I echo all that, and also, I think with him searching, you're going to have almost a stair step of searching. So you'll have, say he potentially runs into Bo-Katan, then he runs into Sabine, and then he's like thinking he's on a roll, and then boom, he runs into Boba Fett, and maybe Boba Fett's like, no, hold on, I'm not a Mandalorian here, and then something happens. Like I think there's a potential for that, for the whole searching aspect. So yeah, I mean, you have that, and then also the line from the armor in the trailer saying, about the enemy sorcerers and all that. I think that's going to play into a lot of this, really.
Mm-hmm. And really too, when you say enemy sorcerers, biggest question right here, are they talking about Jedi or are they talking about Sith?
Yeah,
we don't know that. So
yeah.
I mean, it could go either way. Again, I think whoever's in the chat who was talking about their predictions, I think they make a lot of good points about, the search and the importance of that. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, we also have Joel Davis, who's been active in the chat. He's saying, one thing I hope is future Mando seasons hint at the bigger picture going on, like maybe a tiny hint at the First Order in the unknown regions, or a mention of baby Ben Solo, something. Yeah, so I don't know if that would be in season 2, but I mean, we know that Giancarlo Esposito, as I mentioned earlier, he's very talkative when it comes to Mandalorian. He's pretty much come out point blank and said, oh yeah, in season 3, in season 4, we're going to develop this more. So there's at least season 4, if not more. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's going to happen. And Filoni or Favreau, I think it was Favreau that said last year for season 1 there was going to be some bigger picture with First Order going on. I don't think
I
he
was
meant
just
it
about to say.
literally. I
I was
don't know
just
if
about
he
to
meant
say.
it
I think. I
literally
mean,
though.
this is a question we throw out to anyone. Do you think we'll get a reference to the First Order,
I
or at
think
least
so.
like the Battle of Jakku and all that
Yeah.
stuff like that? I mean, I see Ray Sloan behind you, Chris. So with Ray Sloan, Gallius Rax, all
Yeah.
those characters, like
Aftermath.
we
Yep.
get reference to who they are, because around this time, again, like we know the rebellion fell 5 years ago, and they went out to the unknown regions. But now the First Order is going to start building their arsenal. So I think it'd be great to see, especially in probably season 3, probably where we're going to get it, of the mentions of, hey, there's some people out in the outer regions that are trying to rebuild or have a potential arsenal. We all know it's going to be the First Order,
Yeah.
rebuilding their stock. So
Yeah, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna see maybe a flashback of, for say, like we're gonna find out about Gideon's past, about what exactly he was, whether or not my theories pan out or not. Mandalorian thinks he's dead. He's gonna ask, like, why are you still here? And he's gonna say, well, this sect of the Empire went out to the unknown regions. They are led by Grand Admiral Ray Sloan, and
mhm.
I was over here. I wanted to do my own thing. Or maybe he does have a communication. You see like a scene where he's like doing a communication, hollow communication. Maybe he was commanded by Admiral Ray Sloan to stay back the whole time and kind of
Yeah,
put on this facade to the New Republic. Oh yeah, like the Empire's a joke. They're just these people that are
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
going from place to place, and to get them distracted from what the First Order is actually doing for real in the unknown
Mhm.
regions for 30 years, building up an empire, like they were doing it under their nose because they thought these other guys were the real deal.
Absolutely. Chris, I didn't even, you just blew me away from that. I didn't think about him being planted as a distraction. So that's a
Yeah,
good way of looking at it.
yeah, that is. I think as well. So to go along with that, I think some of the now I'm not sure how you guys perceive it, but on a maybe a different angle to look at it was Werner Herzog, the client, and Moff Gideon, were they separate like factions of the Empire? Like, because if you notice, like the Werner Herzog, his troops, they're all like dusty and
Mm-hmm.
kind of worn down and stuff. And Moff Gideon, boom, he looks like he's just straight out of like episode 4. Real crisp, clean stormtroopers. Like, everything seems more professional, I guess you would say.
Right.
But so I don't know, could there be potential like little factions as well of this group of Empire here, this group of Empire there,
Yeah.
this group there, etc. You know.
Ben, you make a great point, because I think of, I'm going deep into my nerdism right here. Gallius Rax and Ray Sloan had that beef at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So you have Empire's End. So maybe Ray Sloan has, Moff Gideon as like her guy, and then Gallius Rax at one point was messing with the client.
Huh.
Now like because again he took them out to Jakku because that was a contingency plan
Yep.
to test the stormtroopers, but really much was destroy the old Empire. But again, maybe there are factions like that within the Empire. That would make sense to me, because we all know Gallius Rax and Ray Sloan had that potential beef, which led to his death. Spoiler alert in the books. So, like, again, I mean, great point, Ben. I can really see that.
Yeah. I mean, just playing off of Squadrons, Star Wars Squadrons, there's a couple missions. You can watch my entire playthrough of the game, by the way, on the channel right now. I'm gonna plug because it's my own channel, so screw it. but
Yeah.
but there's
Even tied into real life history in World War II, there was multiple factions in the Nazi Party, and we all know George Lucas based the Empire off of the Nazi Party.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it would make sense that there are multiple factions within this own form of government of the Empire, to where we're saying, no, we may be united under one name, but the heck with that. Part of us, we could be Hydra, you know what I'm saying? Or one part could be like, Nazi. So it's just like, all right, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Christopher is saying I'm really interested in to see how the progress Baby Yoda, considering how slow he'll have to age. like with no time jump, I can't see we'll ever see him progress a lot at all. I mean, there's gonna be a time jump because we see like
Yeah,
Grief Karga has a gray beard, whereas in season 1 he just has a mustache that's got color, but now he's got a lot of gray. So couple
Now,
months, maybe a
yeah, I
year
can
at the
see it being a
most.
couple months.
Yeah.
I don't foresee it jumping years. I mean, maybe if they go 5 seasons, let's say season 4 to 5, they jump maybe 2 years. It just depends on how that particular season would end prior to. But that's the only way I can see them jumping years if it's like later in the seasons.
now the question though really is, okay, so you have Baby Yoda, you have, I mean, I guess this goes down the speculation route, but could we might have a potential of maybe seeing him growing up a little more, because if we go back to the whole cloning theory, potentially, the clones, look how fast they age. They were developed what, around the time of episode 1 or
Mhm.
or a little bit before that.
It's like the end of episode 1.
Yeah, yeah.
They started,
Like,
got the army started.
yeah, they got it started, and then by the time episode 2 comes around, it's like 10, 11 years or so
Yeah.
in between. So, and those guys are already, 20, 25 years old or so. So, could have Baby Yoda potentially been a clone? I mean, you have the guy with the client, he has the patch on his arm as a Kaminoan patch.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, good point.
so,
and
could
really,
that,
species could develop quicker than a normal human being. So it's like we don't know. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but Ben, you make a great point.
well, that, and then also I was talking to my cousin who was in the chat earlier about this. Okay, so you have potentially, so Yoda in episode 6, he says, what, for I think he says for 800 years I've trained Jedi, or for 700
Mhm.
years. And when he dies, he's like 900 years old. So Baby Yoda's actually getting pretty close to where Yoda started training Jedi. Like another, whether it be accelerated aging or just straight up aging, another 50 or 100 years, that's when Yoda would start have been, training Jedi. So like
Oh,
Baby
I never
Yoda's
thought
he's
about
got to
that.
be getting close to where Yoda started. I mean, another, 50, like I said, another 50 or 100 years, whether it be accelerated or not, he's close. I mean,
Huh.
because think about it, if you watch episode 6, Yoda says I think he says for 800 years I've trained Jedi,
Because he's
and
900.
because he's 900. So
Oh.
he started training Jedi when he was like 100 or 150, and Baby Yoda's 50. So, is he?
And maybe, and I think about it too. Maybe in people years, it's like dog years versus people years. It's different. I mean, again, that's where I think it's nice to have that mystery about that species, because again, we really don't know much about Yoda's species yet.
Yep.
And this is where I think we're all excited about what this species is all about with this particular series.
For sure. I think Baby Yoda's I think that whole idea, and see, that's another hook for maybe the general audience and the marketing, is like, whoa, let's find out who Yoda's species is, like
yeah.
that's a potential hook. And then also along the lines with like our speculation and anticipation, I think one we've briefly addressed throughout this episode. Obviously, we've talked endlessly, I feel like, about Boba Fett. But I think the big one that's going to really hook people back into watching the Clone Wars and everything is whenever Ahsoka appears, because people are going to be like, who the heck is this woman? She has the Force, has lightsabers, etc.
Wrecking everybody.
Yeah, whatever she does. And she's connected to Anakin. She has a connection to Anakin, connection to the Jedi, Obi-Wan, all that stuff. Now, yeah, I mean, there's like endless potential with Ahsoka. And, if you want me to like really play with house money here, what if Ahsoka starts talking to Din Djarin and does a flashback, and we get a little 10-second Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan from the Obi-Wan series?
Dude,
oh my God.
wait.
Think about
Okay,
that.
this makes sense. This
I
makes
just
sense.
thought of that on the spot.
Wait, this actually makes sense because I read a story like yesterday where he was on the set of The Mandalorian trying on the outfit. He
Oh, really?
tried
No,
on the
I
outfit.
didn't
I'm
even see
thinking,
that
why is he
story.
on the Mandalorian stage with the outfit on? Why would he be
Yeah.
there? Why would he be anywhere else? Like, you could be right. This could be like the backdoor pilot into the Obi-Wan series, because they could be like,
And like I said, we talked about it earlier, this could be the Filoni Favreau verse
Yep.
to where everything's going to tie in. I mean, it makes sense. It's all the same universe. So if we get a little flashback of Obi-Wan with Ahsoka around this kid, around the Mandalorian as a child, like it would make sense. I'm like, oh, because I'm saying right now, I'd lose my mind.
Oh yeah.
Like for that
Wow.
5 seconds, I'm like, holy shit, let's get it. Like,
Oh yeah. Like, see, well, that's another thing. Man, sorry, I've been dominating this segment. But
It's all
but
good.
I think something we've really overlooked here, and I think a lot of the people really, I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, whether it be big YouTubers or articles or whatever. Okay, so we have all the speculation of Ahsoka, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, whoever, the one actress who's probably playing Sabine or maybe a Witch of Dathomir, that girl. You have,
Sasha
all
Banks.
Yep, Sasha Banks. You have her. You have all of these different potential storylines, but think about it this way: all of this has been, leaked / reported. What are they hiding from us though? Because they hid Baby Yoda for so long.
Mhm.
What are they hiding? Could there be a big potential overarching reveal? Could we get I don't know, whatever. Like, I don't even know, but there could be something big hiding, like a big
that's a
reveal.
good question. And I will say, I mean, you have to commend this show for not, I wouldn't say hiding, but not letting things get out.
Yep.
No, because again, we did not know about Baby Yoda at all then.
Yep.
Again, we might get a character that we already know from the new films that we've seen.
Yep.
Might be in the movie. We just don't know, and that's okay. Like as long as they use that character right. But I don't know what they could be hiding at this point. I mean, and let's be real here. We'll probably get surprised at the end of season or episode 1 of season 2. I think that would probably be a pattern I would want to do if I was the creator of the show.
Yeah,
Well, what if,
I mean, okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what if maybe, when the Old Republic stuff comes around, or not the Old Republic, the New Republic stuff comes around, what if they got Mark Hamill in to do a little Luke, hologram thing talking to the New Republic troops or something, or something. Like what if that could be a big surprise? Like just a little, whatever, 20-second little 10-second hologram thing about finding Force users or whatever, and then they're on the Mandalorian's butt trying to get Baby Yoda.
I have one better than that, and this was my initial thought at the end of season 1.
Let's hear.
Have a young Luke being the one that's given Baby Yoda.
Oh man!
Let Baby Yoda be his first student. Ben wasn't his first student, I don't think.
That would be amazing.
True. Because Ben would only be 4 years old at this point, or 4 or 5 years old at this point. Ben Skywalker or Ben Solo. So that would make sense. And they have the technology to de-age anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hell, they did it to Michael Douglas and Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And he looked good. So it's not like you can't. And we all know Mark Hamill's in good shape now. All they got to do is just darken his hair a little bit, clean shave him, and just use a tech to make him look young. They did it in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And with the hologram idea, Ben, I think that's cool because you can hide a lot of deficiencies in a hologram.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a potential prediction, I would say. What about you, Chris? What are some like ideas or anticipations or predictions you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think there's gonna be that big one with Luke, but other than that, I would say there's gonna be a lot of cool action. I think we're gonna see the Empire really, really strong. Like we might even see a Star Destroyer. We're gonna see maybe more Mandalorians again because it looked like there's a lot of them got killed on Navarro, but then the armor also said a lot of them did escape. So there could be more. Obviously, whoever's with Bo-Katan, if she has a retinue of Mandalorians, we might see it'd be cool to see like a full-fledged action scene, like stormtroopers versus Mandalorians, like you'd see in Star Wars Rebels. So something like that. But yeah, I mean, just going to like something that'll blow your mind. I think Joel Davis is kind of on the subject. He's saying, question for you guys: any chance they'll hint at what's going on at Exegol? Maybe see some Sith Eternal cultists bump into Baby Yoda and Mando. There's also this sect of dark side worshippers called the Acolytes of the Beyond. I know that Milton knows about that from the Aftermath trilogy. Those guys, we haven't heard about them in any of the canon material or anything lately, but they're out there doing really devious, weird things. So that'd be kind of cool to see them at least and see like what they're trying to do out there.
Oh yeah, they would be really interesting. It's just a question of, the only thing is I feel like sometimes with some of these story points we're making, do they fit the one-off episode model? Because potentially could you fit those into a one-off episode model? Because I mean I don't know exactly if they're using still the same standalone model for this season.
Right.
No, they aren't actually. Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of
all connected. I think
into one. It was an Sorry, it was a Entertainment Weekly article, I believe, where they were actually talking to Favreau, and he says like our construction of the season is going to be a little different. It's still going to be 8 episodes, but the episode lengths can be more variable in length. So there might be one for like 50 minutes, and there could still be one for like 25 minutes though. But there's also going to be different perspectives. So pretty much every single episode was from the eyes of the Mandalorian, whereas this season, he literally confirmed in that interview that there's going to be different people's perspectives. So we're probably going to get scenes with just Moff Gideon with his troops and stuff without Mando being even there. So, yeah, I think we're going to really see. Like it was actually he compared it to like Game of Thrones. Like there's different characters in Game of Thrones that they go through like all different lands. So it's actually going to be much bigger, much more epic in scope. Where like season 1 really focused on Mandalorian. Now we're going to actually expand the universe in season 2. It seems like.
Oh, then there definitely could be a chance of the Acolytes of the Beyond or different storylines like that. Also, I think, man, we've really talked Boba Fett tonight too. But I think the moment now this is a potential where I guess you could see where episodes could maybe we could get a 2-part rollover episode on Tatooine, but I feel like we could get a potential cliffhanger of Cobb Vanth, the end of the episode, taking the helmet off and people being like, "Whoa, that isn't Tamara Morrison." Cut, And I think boom, you could have a social media firestorm of like, "Whoa, what's going on with the show?" You know what I mean? It's either going to be maybe at the end of an episode, or it could be somewhere like at a dramatic moment where he's like, "Oh, I'm Boba Fett," and takes his helmet off and it's not him. And then the audience, be like, "Whoa, what's going on?" But I think there's definitely a chance if it turns out to be Cobb Vanth, which I think we're definitely heading in that direction. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a chance he'll take his helmet off and then it'll just be a big crazy moment.
Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. They're gonna have 2 reveals, right? It's gonna be like the one reveal of Boba Fett, that's not actually Boba Fett, and then there's gonna be the other reveal of like, oh my God, Morrison, he's back in Star Wars, but he's not in Yarmur. You're gonna see him, and it's gonna be like, oh, it's Jango Fett or it's the clones. No, it's Boba Fett. We've never seen him without the helmet as he's an older age.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have 2 predictions. One, I think we're going to go to Mandalore at one point.
Oh, see now, live action would be crazy.
I think we're going to have to for the sake of the show. Clearly for what it's titled, but just to see what it looks like post Clone Wars, post Empire. Because I'm curious to see what it looks like.
It was already bad enough in Star Wars Rebels. It was just a dust bowl because all the war and the weaponry and all used.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think we'll get some type of like bigger fleet battle in this season. We got mini battles like in space, but we might get something with Mandalorians versus some type of sector of the Empire, some type of sector against the bounty hunters. I think we'll get some type of traditional Star Wars dogfight space battle in this season.
And I'm a sucker for those. So if they could put that on a live action television series, then that means they could do just about anything.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, that was one fun episode talking all things season 1 and beyond for The Mandalorian. So what you guys want to plug about your stuff on the internet? Where can they find you?
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, you can just find me on Twitter at RealBenMaynard. I'm always on there chatting Star Wars, crying about my sports teams always losing. Just just all kinds of fun stuff on Twitter, and then you can just find me here on Chris's YouTube channel talking more Mandalorian.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Milton Weber7. That's Milton Weber with the number 7. Or Facebook. I'm on there as Milton Weber on Facebook. Or you can find me here when Chris invites me on the channel to talk Star Wars. Again, Chris, I appreciate you having us on here, man. Yep. Always a good time talking Star Wars with you, Ben. And Chris, yep. I really enjoy it.
Oh yeah. So guys, until next time, you can make sure you subscribe to the channel for more on Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and everything else Star Wars out there. There's a lot. That's gonna do it for me, Milton and Ben. Thanks everybody for the chat. It's been a fun time talking with everybody throughout the chat as well. That's gonna do it for us here. May the Force be with you always. This is the way. Okay. And we are done. Almost 2 hours later. Woo!